Good morning, Neil. How are you?
Quinton, good, and yourself?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Very excited. It's the end of the year, so we are all. Are we winding down yet? Is it a time for personal trainers to wind down now, or is it now the time to push?
It's definitely the time to wind down. I think you and I've hinted at pushing, and then you've actually brought me back to reality because I'm quite tired after this year. How are you feeling?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm tired, but I'm inspired for next year. I think next year is going to be a great year, and I think for PTs as well. They sort of it's an opportunity they've had a couple of years now to figure out this thing, how to do this. So yeah, next year we're going to be putting it together, and yeah, big opportunities waiting for next year.
Yeah, 100%. I think you said it beautifully there. I think it's been a long enough time for people to, like, if you were unsure if online was the way to go, I think by now you should be 100% sure because there's so many still people home based. There's so many
Yeah,
people, again's minds have been open to doing things remotely. So going
yeah,
online, I think, is a no-brainer. But
absolutely.
I think a lot of people struggle with getting clients or how that actually looks without, I don't know, like word of mouth or
Yeah.
bumping into people at the gym or so. What are different ways that we
Yeah.
can do to
Well,
combat that fear, Quinton?
that sort of made me think of something that I don't think we've talked a lot about, but it's actually very important. And I want to start with this question. Imagine that you had something, that you had an asset that generates revenue for you at any time that you want to. That would be pretty cool, right? If you can build that kind of asset. And
That's
that's
not
that asset is actually called an email list. And I know a lot of people think, oh gosh, I email list. If the people talk about that, they just get they are very nervous about it because they think about an email database of 10,000 people. But I'm actually just talking about a moderate sort of size of email list where you've actually got an audience of people that know you, like you, trust you, that you talk to on a regular basis, and not to sell them stuff, but that you actually those are people that you have a relationship with, people that would open your emails when you send it to them. So yeah, I think a lot of people think that emails are old school. Nobody opens an email anymore. But I beg to differ. I think there's, different opening rates for different emails. I know in my own life, there are tons of emails that I just ignore. But there's also those emails that as soon as they pop up, I open them and I read them because I know that there's going to be value in that. So we're going to, I want to just sort of encourage people today and give you a couple of tips and ideas of how to use an email list to market your business.
cool. Yeah, that sounds great, and I do think that there is a lot of stigma around it, and
Mm.
I think it's the same thing with social media and email lists. They think that you have to have this massive following or this massive database in order for it to work. Um,
Exactly.
and if you could have a massive following and you have the wrong followers and your engagement is terrible, so
Yeah.
it might feel good that you've got 10,000, 100,000, or whatever, but if you've got 100 of the right people that are actually interested, that is a
Yeah.
lot more valuable than sending it to 100,000 people that don't even open it.
Absolutely, yeah, and the other thing is, a lot of people get nervous. Or sort of a typical question that I get is people say, "Well, how often do I have to send out an email?" And I think once a week is just to give you it's not a exact answer, but once a week is pretty much a good routine to get into to just kind of send out an email and keep in touch with people and give them value. But then the other question people have is, okay, what do I write about? What do I every week come up with a new topic? And there's a cute little exercise that you can do. Actually, is by just sitting, taking quiet time, especially now over December. So if you do have a little bit of time, to just go sit in a corner and ask yourself, what are those two questions that your audience asks most often? And those questions you might pick up in social media, in your group or in other people's groups about the niche that you serve, whether that be yoga or whether it be nutrition based type of stuff, whatever it is that you're focusing on. just go look at the kind of questions people ask and look and maybe make a list and just pick the top 2 and write that down on a post-it note and stick it up on a window or a wall or something. So do the exercise with post-it notes everywhere in your study or in your room. Another one to be asking is what type of questions should they be asking? Because people don't always know what they don't know. And you are the expert. You should be able to guide those people in the type of things that they should be thinking about. Remember, when we talk about offers, we talk about what's the end point, what's the end game that people want, not the process. What is the promise that people want? And so you know what it is that's going to get them there. So you need to know what are the questions that people should be asking on the way there. So those are just 2 quick and easy things that you can do. And if you write down a bunch of that, you might have 8 weeks of content, 8 weeks of topics that you could write about in the next couple of weeks.
100%. I think a lot of people don't know, but there's even like your Gmail account, there's built-in things called scheduling, where you can actually schedule emails so that you don't have to either remember or be available every week to write this thing down and send it at a specific time. If you're going for that consistent approach, you can do a bunch, like 2, 3, 4 emails at a time when you have time to write, and schedule them for the next 4 weeks. And there's your month of emails done in could be one sitting, if you're like in the mood to write that day. So it also doesn't have to be this task that you always have to show up for, like be on your computer and write this thing and put it together. You can have a template, like a template email that you use where you just fill in the text. You might want to shop and change pictures, but it doesn't have to be this hard process. It can literally just be like, write what you feel like and when you feel like it, and then schedule ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Like we usually do with Train Me Academy, we teach people something that we do. And I'll let you into a little bit of a secret. This Facebook Live that we do every week is we talk about certain topics, but we're also having this transcribed now. This is sort of something that we've done in the last few weeks. We've got somebody that's good at copywriting, and she's writing this stuff for us into a newsletter format or a blog format. And that now gives this content legs. So it's a tough job that she has in trying to make sense of what we talk about every week, Neil, I must say. So, but just to kind of organize it and write and pull out the nuggets from the week, that gives you so much opportunity to stretch this content and not have to sort of come up with new content all the time. And you can't believe the amount of content that just a 15-minute chat like this and where it could go, and you could put it on a blog, you could, post it onto YouTube, you could have a podcast, you could do all of these weird and wonderful things. You can take snippets out of the talk and post it as single lines into social media. So tons of stuff that you can do. At the minute you just transcribe something that you may be doing on a live or a video that you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's also a great point, and that's something that's very true to me. I tried the blogging route many years ago because that was the big thing at the time, but I just don't enjoy like sitting and writing so much. So my antidote to that is I find it much easier to express myself through talking. So I make a video. I've made videos by myself. You don't have to have conversations like I have it's nice to have Quentin here so I can actually have a conversation. But even if you don't have a partner, you can literally just talk about something. And then, like you said, there are transcribers out there that are just free software, or you can get someone like a copywriter to write out what you've said. And then you've taken that whole thing that I don't like out of it, is sitting and writing, and you can get someone to do it, or you can get software to do it. So I don't think there is any excuse to not have the thoughts and the ideas and all of the things that you can help people with put into some sort of copy text or like some sort of text system. And then what can you do with that, Quentin? Like once you've got it in text format, you mentioned the blog, what else can you do with it?
Well, I think the next question that people would have, how do I get people onto my email list? How do I get grow that email list so that it's big enough so I got people that are actually listening to me? And here's where something that we've spoken about before, a lead magnet becomes very useful. So a lead magnet is really just a valuable piece of content that you can give your your audience in exchange for the email list. So you all have seen those sort of emails, or those PDFs, or those short courses, or those type of things where you sign up for that, and then from then on you start getting information or newsletters or the weekly emails from those people. So when you start developing this content that we've spoken about, if you take one of those weeks of content and just convert it maybe into a checklist or a guide, 10 steps to wealth and happiness, type of thing, and put that in a PDF or an MP3 or a mini course, that you can do. If you put it into some sort of format and actually give that away in order to get people's email list, you can grow a pretty nice email list from that.
Yeah, I think what we can also do from our side is, as now we're doing this and putting it in and transcribing it and putting it in a blog format on our website, and we're going to be building our email list. We can also take people through the journey of what's worked for us, what hasn't in 2021, move into 2022, because I think a lot of people's objection will be email lists are a thing of 2010 type of thing. It doesn't work nowadays. I think it does still work. It just, there may be some new strategies or different things, and we're always flexible. So I think we're also open enough to just share the journey with us. We'll tell you what doesn't work, and we'll tell you what is working.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the kind of platforms that you can do this on, obviously people think there's opt-in pages. It's usually you need a website, and that is obviously great. If you have a simple little platform where there's a landing page and you ask, or you tell people what you're going to give them, you ask for the email address, the next page pops up and says, thank you. And the next page pops up and says, here's the content that you want. So that's obviously one thing, but another way to do it is just as in your Facebook group that we've spoken a lot about, is how to use your Facebook group, is those first questions that you ask people if they asked to join your Facebook group. One of them should be give us, provide your email address and we'll send you some cool stuff over the next few weeks. And you can use that email again to grow your email list as well.
Yeah, I think also what essentially that a Facebook group does is, instead of having mail software and have people's email addresses, you can also curate an audience in your Facebook group. You don't necessarily have to have their personal information, but every time you post in there, it's the same as saying, like, it's like a pop-up, like, there's going to be a notification from Facebook. This group said something. If you're interested in that group and it's been giving you value, people are going to put eyes on it. And that's what I've done to start my Facebook group. It's been going probably about 5 or 6 months now. But what I've done is, instead of also just taking things organically, like what we mentioned earlier, and I had to write a thesis to get my qualification. And I've actually just used snippets out of the thesis that I wrote to get my qualification. So I've literally taken something that I wrote for academic purposes, and now I'm repurposing that and actually using that in you can't say it's a newsletter or data, like an email list, but I'm sending that to my Facebook group, which is basically the same. It's the same sort of idea as an email list.
That is brilliant. Yeah.
If you don't want to use emails and there's a specific platform that you use, like Facebook, you're basically doing the same thing by having a group. It's your little community. It's like a closed off little community that you share information with, and the better information you give, more eyes are going to go to it every time you post.
Definitely, yeah. And of course, these different platforms can refer to one another. So in your Facebook group, you can refer to your email or your newsletter and say, sign up for my newsletter. In your newsletter, you could talk about join our Facebook group, just to get the sort of the spider web where you got catching enough people to come to join your audience that you're going to be talking to. And ultimately, the bigger your audience, the more conversions you're going to have when you start looking at promoting your services.
But don't be afraid to start small.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just go out there and write a little bit of content, or talk a little bit of content, or video a bit of content, and then get your email list up and running.
Cool. I think that's a great way to gives people a little bit of background of us to why to do it, and then also how to do it. So I think that's pretty much everything that needs to be said on this live. Thank you for sharing that information with us, Quentin. It was bite-sized, it was easy to understand, and you've educated me on as to how easy it can be and how I can do it.
Awesome. All right, pretty cool. Neil, are we still around next week? It's December holidays.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can do one more live this year, and then I think we need to take a break.
Yeah. Okay, so make sure you don't miss next week, because next week is going to be the Christmas edition.
I'm going to wear a Christmas hat if I can find it.
Okay, we'll decide about that.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much, Quentin. I really appreciate it.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Okay.